As a Nigerian in Nigeria watching this right now, I can bet there are many questions in your mind. But I know there is one question in your mind that is also on my mind. And that one question is this: how in the world is sachet water 30 naira per sachet? In short, why is everything so expensive at the moment? I will answer that question and more on the show today. This is a Market Square. My name is Oluwa Pelumi Awe, and as always, I'm happy to have you along on the show. I must thank you for your feedback on the previous episode. It was beautiful to see that. I hope for more comments like that. Before I go any further on the show today, I want to show you a video that I believe connects to you strongly as touching what's happening in Nigeria at the moment. Market Square reporter, Favor Eya, over to you.
So we'd like to know how the increase in the fuel price, how it has affected your business so far.
In fact, the increase in the fuel has caused a tremendous problem to we the driver, because the money we are making is even much more less than in the previous years.
That's so sad. So meaning you're a family man, if I believe so.
Of course.
So how have you been able to cater for the family and everything, the children, health-wise and everything? How have you been able to pull it through?
I can even tell you that to feed the family is a real problem. Even to send my children to school, especially to higher institution, I can't be able to cope because of the situation of the problem of the country rather.
Right now, since the day they're swelling Mr. President on May, so the business have been tough because it's not the rate we are purchasing goods that we are purchasing now. It's higher, 2 times higher than before.
So what business are you talking about exactly? Because we know this is a marketplace. A lot of people are doing so many things. So you have to be specific in the business.
Okay, in my own side, we are producing snacks. So the rate to purchase flour before is 2 times higher than the rate we are purchasing it now. Well, before the swelling of Mr. President, we are purchasing 1 bag of flour at the rate of, if maybe by December time, we used to purchase at the rate of 10,000, 10,500. But recently now, we are purchasing at the rate of 45,000 naira.
Aside from the flour and all that, what of the oil, your gas and all that? Do you have something to say about that?
That one is even the worst, because the gas now, by that time we used to purchase a liter of gas or 1 kg of gas at the rate of maybe 75 naira, but now it's at the rate of 1,002. While groundnut oil and sugar is at the rate of, like sugar is at the rate of 60-something thousand, while groundnut oil is at the rate of 30-something thousand. So all those things is getting tough to us, and even most of us, we are no longer be able to purchase at the rate of we used to purchase before.
So that is to say that the prices are no longer the same because the cost of production have been increased. So I would like you to just give us a show, like how has the customer relation been? Like, are people still buying things? Are they still patronizing you as usual?
People are no longer buying the way you used to buy. Like if you look at my own table, we are rounding up by this time because customers are not turning up the way they used to turn up. If it is before, we used to even produce around 7 o'clock in the evening, we'll be making sales. But now we are rounding up by this time just because customers are no longer.
December 2023, the economic landscape revealed significant shifts. The headline inflation stood at 28.92% in December 2023, as against 28.20% in November 2023. At the same time, food inflation was 33.93% as against 32.84% in November 2023, while core inflation was around 23.06% as against 22.38% in October 2023. So far, the cost of buying staple food has increased, exceeding headline inflation, and this has affected majorly the poorest in our society. The Nigerian Naira has weakened significantly against the US dollar, contributing to import cost and inflation. And this is the equation. Once there is inflation, which is simply when there is increase in the price of goods and services, The first impact point is that it reduces the purchasing power of the people. What that means is that the value of money is what money can buy. And once the price of goods and services increases, what happens is the value of that currency with you reduces its power and making it harder to afford even basic necessities. Its impact is also felt when measuring the inequality gap, as it looks like the gap between the rich and the poor keeps growing by the day, which has undoubtedly worsened the state of poverty in the country. And like I always say, that there is a direct relationship between poverty and crime. For every society where poverty is high, the crime rate there will definitely increase. Noticeably, there has also been a decrease in investment and slowed economic growth. As I speak with you now, no fewer than 5 companies shut down in 2023, and I'll give you their names. Procter & Gamble, P&G, you have Unilever Nigeria, you have Sanofi, you have Bolt Foods, you have Lazapay. These companies, their exit from Nigeria resulted in no fewer than 6,000, no fewer than 6,000 people losing their jobs. The governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Mr. Yemi Cardoso, while addressing the House of Representatives, recently made a bold promise that Nigeria's inflationary pressure will drop from 28.92% to 21.4% in 2024. To discuss these issues and the way out with me on the show today is a public finance expert and economist, Dr. Roland. Dr. Roland, the inflation rate in Nigeria at the moment stands at 28.92%, going by the data from the National Bureau of Statistics. And in fact, recently, the CBN governor has assured Nigerians that with his current plan, inflationary pressure will drop from 28.92% to 21.4% by the end of this year, 2024. So I want to ask you first. The first question is, how possible is this statement given the present policies that are available?
Well, thank you for having me. First and foremost, let me say that it is possible because inflation is an economic malady any nation will experience. So if there are policy consistencies and proper coordination between monetary and fiscal policies, therefore, definitely it is a good thing. The government has to level of political will and measures of fiscal discipline, then I see it being possible.
Your answer, you mentioned some points that we're going to be talking about on the show today. But first, let's start with asking the question, and maybe just digging in deep to say, what are the causes of the present inflation at the moment? What are the causes? Yes, I want to get that from you.
Okay, as a matter of fact, the Nigeria's present economic challenge, inflation rate is very high, is limited to a couple of factors. First of all, we have experienced some currency depreciation over time. Economists generally, when the value of the currency, Nigeria in specific now, depreciates, one will expect that it will increase the cost of goods, especially imported goods. And this definitely will lead to high prices for consumers. You know, Nigeria is an import-dependent economy. So definitely when currency depreciates, as we have experienced in recent time past, you find out that prices of imported goods will rise, and this will lead to inflation coming on the high side. Now, secondly, there is what we call the supply chain disruptions. We have experienced that the supply chain, whether due to logistical challenges or even trade restrictions or other factors, can lead to shortage of goods and services, thereby driving up prices. Actually, what is it we're talking about? It is the skyrocketing of the domestic prices of goods and services. Again, very importantly, is the high food prices, high cost of food prices. As we have experienced in Nigeria, especially in the middle belt of Nigeria, you find out that the insecurity challenge, which is very prevalent in the middle belt in this, Nigeria food basket nations around the axis of Benue, Plateau, Nasarawa, and Kogi, we have experienced some level of very high insecurity. This has affected agricultural production, whereby people can no longer go to farms. And this inability to go to farms will result to shortage of food, which of course will not drive the available food available. The prices will go up. You see. Then again, coming from the economic point of view, we find out that Nigeria has experiencing very recently not of a monumental stance, fiscal deficits. Even the last budget that we signed into law, found there's a lot of fiscal deficit financing. So when these persistent fiscal deficits occur, that is when government spending exceeds its revenue. This can also lead to increased money supply and cause there to be inflationary pressure. I mean, just want to add one, which of course is known to the monetary authorities. Monetary policy has been a challenge. Most of the time, we find out that there is an ineffective monetary policy management, and such as excessive money printing that we have also seen not too long ago, inconsistent policy decisions. All this can fuel inflationary pressures in an economy. So the list is on the rise, but majorly and frankly speaking, some of these are itemized constitute major causes of the Nigeria current economic malady that we pass through the moment.
Okay, sir. I think you've mentioned some of the points that are critical and are the causes of inflation at the moment in Nigeria. But I'd like for us to speak on each point one after the other. So let's start with fiscal imbalance. We know that Nigeria has a large budget deficit that it finances through borrowing, which can take a few inflation, for instance. I want to ask you, is there a way we can bypass this fiscal imbalance that we have at the moment that is at the root of the inflation we have at the moment?
Yes, there are many ways that we can actually address this issue. For instance, I have said often time that the Nigerian economy is very bogus. Bogus in the sense that the size of the Nigerian economy as it is right now, the expenditure side is way far higher than the revenue. And considering the flamboyant government spending, especially on consumption, this has to be reduced. I'm very particularly happy recently that the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in one of his speeches, made a drastic reduction in the number of envoys that travels with him and the presidential entourage. You know, there has to be a lot of fiscal discipline in the Nigeria political and economic space. This is because we have found out that successive governments have lived a very lifestyles, whereas there is the very high debt profile, yet Nigeria spends as though the money is just there to spend. We live on a budget, for instance, that most of the revenue not only come from one source, majority of them are borrowed. So if you continue to engage in excessive consumption pattern, you will find out that we can never address some of these issues. Again, you can look at the monetary policy tools, for instance. The CBN can use these tools to address look at interest rate adjustments to control money supply and inflation. Then implementing a clear and a very credible inflation target can guide policy decisions.
That's true.
More importantly, that the exchange rate management is key and very pivotal in this direction. Implementing measures to stabilize the exchange rate can also help to mitigate the currency depreciation and therefore reduce especially the imported inflation that we currently experience. Okay?
The next point I wanted to mention after fiscal imbalance is to talk about what you're talking about now, which is on the monetary policy side by the CBN. And so far, so good. We have seen the economy, the CBN make decisions as to the fact that exchange rate was moved to a market-driven exchange rate from the fixed exchange rate that it was. And some people are saying that that has contributed significantly to the inflation we have at the moment. So what do you think about that? There's also the other part of the conversation that has to do with speculative forex demand, meaning that the buying and selling of foreign currencies based on expectations of future prices. So I'd like for you to speak on the 2 points. First, the fact that do you think the move by the CBN to shift to a market-driven exchange rate idea from the fixed exchange rate idea was the best, system was the best, or is the best? And what do you think of speculative forex demand?
Yeah, I can agree with you that the idea that the foreign exchange be floated rather than be fixed is a noble one. It's a noble one because we have had an history of a lot of foreign exchange backlogs, and this has not helped our foreign reserve. This has not helped the market economy. So I am of the opinion that floating it is a welcome idea if and only if it is properly managed, and that influences of corrupt tendencies, rent-seeking attitude of public or state actors do not interfere with the due process. It is a welcome development, and I know that it is for a matter of time. The idea is to make competitive president. So it's not about this question you put forward.
Mentioned. I said that
Hello,
there's also the part of speculative forex demand where we have it that people seem to buy and sell currencies based on expectation that the price in the future will increase. And that as well has contributed to the inflation we have at the moment. I just wanted you to speak on that again.
Yeah, that is a normal thing in any economy. There are people who deal on foreign exchange, buying and selling. Normally, theirs is to speculate when prices will be down so that they can acquire more of it and sell. So, on the norm, we expect that certain things like that will always occur. What is important is that it is floated, and every dealer who deals in foreign exchange, which people categorize as the black market economy. So, if you like, the black market, not just the black market economy, So, one would expect that such things will ever be. But what is important is that the foreign exchange management is able to be managed by the central bank, because foreign exchange does not come in on its own. It comes in through goods and services that is sold abroad and brought in. And even our dealers, our manufacturers, our importers, they need foreign exchange to deal. So it's a market on its own that ordinarily people engage in. At any point in time, in any the life of any nation, people will continue to invest in the buying and selling of foreign exchange. So on the norm, it is a market that drives on the speculations, and whether you like it or not, it will continue to live with the people.
Oh, okay. Well, also talking about the move by the CBN, because there's been a lot of movement in that space where since Mr. Yemi Cardoso was inaugurated as the CBN governor, he's made a lot of moves there. One other move made by him was to raise the monetary policy rate, the MPR, which was around 15.5% in November to about 18.75%. Will you say this has slowed down the economy? Now, this is to say that banks cannot borrow as much as they want to borrow from the CBN anymore. And then that will also affect how they also lend out. Means that they have to raise the interest rate when lending money out. Do you think this has slowed down the economy in a way, causing the inflation that we have at the moment?
Very well. It has. And I want to commend that move. Pragmatically, it's a good move because when there's too much of this money in circulation, what is expected is that inflation will continue to snowball into a very high double digits. So it's a good move, and banks themselves who lend money out need to be well regulated. I do not think this policy direction of the CBN is a bad one. I want to say categorically that some of the very proactive steps that have been taken by the new CBN governor, Yemi Cardoso, as a welcome development. What is needed is maturity time. People need to understand that some of these policies needs to get time to mature. There are policies over time that has good intentions. Yeah, they have good intentions, and if we follow very judiciously, they will translate to better economic policies. Only if we do not experience, like we have experienced in the past, controversial policy reversals and inconsistencies in policies from the monetary authorities.
Okay, sir. Well, thankfully you are an economist, and this is just me asking you. That is, back in school, we learned about the Phillips curve. That when inflation increases, unemployment should reduce. But it doesn't look like in reality it's not quite happening that way at the moment. I wanted to speak on that. Is that something we're not doing right, or is that a kind of inflation that will generate employment? Yes.
Well, like I said, there are some things that needs to be done that we are not doing. Even if we are doing it, maybe we are not doing enough. For instance, one would expect that since there is high inflation rate and the government is intended to create more jobs, put food in the table of people, there to be critical investment in infrastructure. Nigerians are very inspiring people. They are very intelligent people. When there is a enabling environment, if you like, you can say when the ease of doing business is affordable, you saw that a lot of people can get employment, self retail or self jobs to do. So I say that the gap that is missing is that our investment in the critical infrastructure, especially education and health, and even investment in the roads and the lights are not very, visible like we can see. This in itself has affected employment generation. For instance, you can also create jobs by implementing policies to encourage investment. Local and small and medium scale enterprises, boosting household incomes and reducing poverty. Not all this jamboree about money that people who are seen as ghosts or who cannot be really identified. So there's a lot of issues surrounding creating an enabling environment that can, motivate investment, that can motivate job creation. For instance, I want to also say that when we talk about employment, people seem to see employment only in the formal sector. The informal sector is the biggest in the economy, where there are a lot of jobs that can be done. For instance, agriculture. The agriculture in Nigeria today is still very done very peasantly. And you will find out that the majority of the agri support do not actually come to the very needed farmers who will need these monies and agricultural input to expand production. So we see that when some of these issues are addressed, talking of agriculture, when the real farmers, not the political farmers, the real farmers can access loans, they can access equipment, they can access, capital, then provide at least security. Like I mentioned in my introductory speech, I mentioned that that danger, there's fear in those that are really doing business because of insecurity. So when people are insecure, they cannot actually go out, they even fend for themselves, not to talk of, for market sales. So you address the issues of insecurity, address the issue of infrastructure, provide power, for instance. Provide power, I find a lot of people with ravages around providing things that could make them contribute to GDP. So some of these things have to be proactive. It is not the paperwork. And like you said in school, we say it, but will the government do another thing? The will of government, the sincerity of government has to be shown to say, oh, we want to do this and we'll get it done. Okay? So
Okay.
some of these things are doable if the government is actually going to throw its political way and, aside.
That's true. I think we've mentioned fiscal imbalance. We've mentioned some monetary policies made, and I think from what you have said today, it looks as though the moves by the CBN has been are positive moves that will generate results in the future. But you also mentioned about security.
Exactly.
We're going to mention security now again. Insecurity in some part of Nigeria, particularly in the north, has disrupted agricultural production and has increased transportation costs. And I hope you agree. I think you mentioned it, but I just want you to be very clear. I hope you agree to the fact that the security challenges we have at the moment in Nigeria, where most persons cannot sleep with their two eyes closed, has contributed to the inflation we have at the moment.
Yeah, that is one of the major cause of the rising food prices in Nigeria as of today. So insecurity, it is already known everywhere, is a threat to peace. And when there is no peace, hardly can there be development, hardly can there be progress. So what we pass experience in Nigeria today is that government has to show, we heard of kinetics and not kinetics. Government have to use both approaches and even if possible, seek international assistance. Because we have seen that people will just wake up one morning, a whole community is gone. You know, so these are threatening the life of the people, and I think it is very noteworthy to mention that unless we tackle the issue of insecurity in the Middle Belt region, food prices will continue to skyrocket because when there are food shortages, what is implies that the available food, everybody will want to just look for it, and that will raise the price of such goods. So inflation will continue to be with us as long as we are experiencing uh, insecurity in parts
Insecurity.
of the country. It's no longer news that it's no longer the Middle Belt or the Northeast. It's almost every part of Nigeria. We had the other time in southwest Nigeria, things coming from it were adopted on kids. We're hearing from the same from southeast. So everywhere in Nigeria, there is a problem of insecurity in our hands.
One more point that has to be mentioned on the show today, which I believe is playing a significant role in how high things are, is the supply chain disruptions. And this is it. Before the war, Nigeria got about 40% of its wheat from Ukraine. We have it that pandemic, we have the war in Ukraine. All of this has contributed to the inflation we have at the moment. We also know that 2 to 3% of our corn, maize, was gotten from Ukraine. We know that fertilizers, we got some part from Ukraine, and these at the time made these things cheaper. But now, due to the war, we've had to source for these things from other countries. What would you say to that? But before you even say anything on that, we had on the show the last episode where I interviewed Dr. Akilo, and he was sharing with us as to the fact that we need to begin to produce in our country to reduce the prices of things eventually. So I'd like for you to speak to the supply chain disruptions that have caused inflation in our country today.
Yeah, that is correct. You see, whenever there is macroeconomic shocks or what we call external shocks, global events, economic downturn in neighboring or trading countries, you expect that it will have a multiplier effect on the trading partners. Like we said, Ukraine is one of the war between Ukraine and Russia has caused a lot of untold hardship in many countries. There is no doubt that logistic problems, such even trade barriers, has really affected the supply of these products or this agricultural produce to this country. Yes, there is no doubt that that one has also significantly affected the cost of food prices. I agree with that to an extent because we ordinarily depend on foreign consumption of these goods. If we produce at all, I think it's very, very minimal. Whenever there are external shocks, especially from bilateral or multilateral trading partners, especially it will affect the countries involved.
Okay, sir. The next question that comes to mind immediately is at this time, now this is going towards the solution part of our conversation. At this time, what inflation targeting policies do you think are appropriate that can stabilize prices of goods and services, and when that happens, can stimulate investment and create job opportunities? What are the inflation targeting policies you think at the fiscal level, at the federal government level, at the CBN level, that can stabilize the prices of goods and services, stimulate investment, and create job opportunities?
First and foremost, thank you. I will say that there has to be a lot of fiscal discipline. We in the public finance, if you like, say the public finance sector, we like public finance, public sector economy. We like to say they has to be the body language of the political actors, if you like, state actors, showing some level of fiscal discipline in what they are doing. For instance, implementing measures to reduce fiscal discipline, we ensure that the government spending should be adequately looked into to be prudent. Because when you see the the body language of the spending of government in things that are of no very serious economic relevance, you begin to see that the country is not right. Yeah, so I will advocate for one that there has to be a lot of fiscal discipline that is matched words with action, so that the monies that are excessively spent on relevant frivolities are avoided. Again, there has to be some tax reforms, adjusting tax policies. Yeah, adjusting tax policies, especially we encourage savings and investment. This, of course, in the long run, will discourage excessive consumption and help to, reduce the demand pool inflation that is also ravaging us. You see, so then again, I work with people to make sure that very critical is that there has to be public investment prioritization. The what government funds is spent on should be prioritized. Not every white collar project that we enhance the pockets of, if you like, the state actors or the very uh, people at the corridor of power. Government has to prioritize its investment in productive sectors, for instance, in agriculture, in education, in infrastructure, healthcare. This can stimulate on its own economic growth and productivity, then help to alleviate the supply side constraints and reduce inflation. You see, so there has to be prioritization of critical projects. Again, government can enhance revenue mobilization. If you look at the budget that was passed recently, you find that majority of the funds will be sourced from deficit financing. It means that the problem of Nigeria is not that we don't make money. We make money with service debt. But how much comes in from other sources, other than oil revenue? And then we know this oil revenue is very volatile, subject to the macroeconomic shocks that may affect it. So we say that government should look inward. There are other means. I can mention, for instance, one, the Ajakuta steel. In some countries of the world, steel is their major export. But Nigerian government, successive government, have never invested in such things to say, how can we diversify from this mono economy to other sources of income generating avenues? So I think that enhancing revenue mobilization, improved tax administration and compliance, as well as diversifying revenue sources, this can enhance government revenue. The problem of Nigeria is not just debt, is that we are not generating enough money. Debt on its own is not a bad idea. If you borrow for productive ventures, to expand productive capacities and economy, there, it on its own can generate money to pay such debt as well as its servicing, you see. So if I may like to add one more, subsidy reforms. We have seen this government make an attempt to remove subsidy from where it is necessary. Then it can be rationalized on fuel and other essential goods so that government can reduce expenditure and inflationary pressure while promoting market efficiency. So I think sincerely that some of these issues confronting the Nigerian state today are solvable if the well intention of government is a follow up to the latter, being proactive and address all the issues
I think you've,
around this.
mhm, mhm. I think you've mentioned important points here that I hope that people who are in place of power can take some of the points you have mentioned into cognizance. But when it has to do, I have about two questions for you now. When it has to do with dealing with inflation, we've seen debate as to palliative or incentive. I want to know what side you are on and why, palliative or incentive.
In any economy, in developed economies of the world, there is nothing wrong with what you call with a palliative or what you call incentive or what you even call transfers or payments. All over the world, government is supposed to be the provider of welfare, succor to the people. There are a lot of vulnerable Nigerians, a lot of poor people. So there's nothing wrong in government at any point in time, is able to carry out measures or policies that will affect the downtrodden, that will make some monies to come in the form of income distribution to those that are vulnerable in the society. Because the vulnerability of the Nigerian people, as we speak right now, is on the higher side. Meaning that the people, one time, at any point in time, will want to, take laws into their hands because it is common said in the general parlance that an hungry man is an angry man. So there is nothing wrong in government doing, but how in doing it, the process must be transparent. We have no issue with government having to give palliatives or transfer money to vulnerable groups, but the determination of those who come into this list, it is of paramount concern to Nigerians. How do you get people into it? But it must be done in a very prudent manner, not that it will be done in a shady form. You don't know how the register is being captured. You don't know who is the beneficiary, but you hear that billions have been disbursed. I can say for free that this has been a cash cow for many successive governments in dishing out monies to their cronies, to their political associates, because it is unaudited. Nobody is going to say how much have you spent. But I thank God for what we have seen in the recent past, that for what we've seen, it appears the present leadership of the country is ready to sanitize that ministry, which is power to do some of these palliatives and incentives to Nigerians.
I think you've mentioned some important points here and mentioned the fact that every government has a way of ensuring that its people are well taken care of. The people are well taken care of. Yep. But looking at our situation in Nigeria today, and I would take during COVID-19, now just take a sample from that, where some persons had to went to keep the palliatives, the materials in a particular house, and they did not distribute it as directed. And if you're going to take all of the factors into cognizance, you just take everything into consideration, do you think that giving out palliative at this time is a better move, knowing where we are and knowing the level of corruption that exists within this geographical location? Do you think that palliative will work this time, or there is an incentive in a way to say that we're going to give farmers, for instance, some tools to improve their production? We're going to try to help pay part of this, maybe like in a subsidy in a way, and then ensuring that people can buy things for cheap. Which one do you think can work for us, knowing our track record of corruption at the moment?
Yes, the greatest challenge that we have experienced is that the programs and policies of government may be well intended, but most times implementation may be far from achieving its purpose. For instance, like you mentioned, during the COVID-19 pandemic, we experienced people hoarding these palliatives that are supposed to be given to people until the NSAS period, where people, went to the streets and got these palliatives for themselves and shared it. But it's unfortunate that in Nigeria today, where people hardly will get 3 square meals, people will hide palliatives made for the people. So this is the scenario that we have come to experience. But if you ask me, what is my view about palliatives? I would say, look, it will always benefit the people who are supposed to give it out to Nigerians. So there are other better options rather than sharing palliatives. For instance, government on its own can do a whole lot by intervening in the market economy. There are staple foods, there are foods that are generally consumed by, especially the low-income groups, that government can intervene and directly by addressing the issues at the farm state. There are a lot of issues that are associated with transfer or palliatives to the people, because at the end of the day, the real vulnerable people will not get these goods. We have seen it where the very well-to-do, those at the corner of power, distribute it to their friends and families, and of course, so it is not a very good thing if you ask me to say, look, let us begin to share. But in the recent past, we were told, we read in the dailies that about 500 million, if I'm not mistaken, or billion, were distributed to governors to get palliatives to their state, their people. But how many state governors got this to the people? Okay, today in Nigeria, the cost of fuel is on the high. So transportations that are put on the road for the commoners, for the people who use everyday public transport to their various destinations. So this idea of transferring wealth to the same political class in the form of giving it to the vulnerable has never worked in Nigeria. I do not see it working. But it is better government addresses these issues by directly liaising. For example, if you talk of the market, there are people government can liaise with. They have market unions. They have different marketing boards. These people are not spirits. These people have organizations. They are well formed. Government can buy, pay directly, and let these things be sold as at a subsidized rate. That is the essence of subsidy in any case. Government intervention in the market that is failing is to intervene and correct for the market failure whenever it is occurring that the market on itself cannot efficiently allocate goods and services to the participant or players in the market. So I think that giving monies or giving goods to say a set of people to so distribute it doesn't work. But I believe as I'm an advocate of the fact that government can do a whole lot by meeting the market unions, meeting the making those and get those things addressed, then the unit cost of this price of goods will fall so that the average man on the street can get it. But it must be well assessed, otherwise some rent-seeking individuals can hijack the process and buy and go and hold them again. So I think the problem is holistic. If we must be sincere to ourselves, then we must be ready to tell ourselves the gospel truth and say, look, let us make Nigeria work. And doing that needs sincerity of government and the state actors.
Okay, well, that's so important. Do not have enough hands that can be trusted enough to be able to make this palliative sharing work. In seeing our clients feel less pain even when things are hard. But this is my last question, Dr. Roland, which is there's someone listening to this right now who is struggling. And like you mentioned, that we're in our most vulnerable state where the other day I was coming from the island, to the mainland, and then I saw that at every bus stop, people were fighting. Any little thing like this, people. So the question I want to ask you is this. Somebody watching this right now and is asking inside in his heart, saying, what can I do to make sure that I don't beg for bread? Or what can I do in the time of inflation? What would you recommend that the Nigerian people, do so that they survive this time? And is there hope? And this is 2 in 1. Is there hope? And how much longer can we hold? How much of time can we give to ensure that things work well in our country?
Yeah, there is hope. There is hope. I believe there is hope. Many countries of the world have passed through this phase. It is not saying the fact that at the end of the tunnel, there is always light. For somebody that is watching or listening, there is hope. What can be done is that in today's Nigeria, the market is there. Whatever you can do, especially when you are in the buying and selling industry, you make it. Because when you talk inflation generally, it is not actually the people, the businessmen or the market woman who suffers the brunt. It is the fixed income earners, so to speak. So anybody that can engage in any form of buying and selling, whatever it is, whether consumables or other items that are used almost on a daily basis, these people do not, because they buy as they buy, that is how they sell. So you see, whatever you can say, whatever you can get people to, that value, then people will want to pay for it. So nobody should stay idle to say, look, this is what I am doing. This. Even those that are with fixed income, they can diversify by doing 1 or 2 other activity that will create value. Whenever there's a value, people are ready to pay for such value and service. So I want to advise Nigerians that there's always light at the end of the tunnel. This is not the end of the road for Nigeria. I believe that when these policies are well coordinated, especially the issues of both fiscal and monetary challenges, when it's well coordinated, then I have a confidence in the leadership of the central bank headed by Yemi so that at least in the near future, it should reverse back to where it is be reasonably okay, not to say minimal. So I believe that my advice is that whatever you can do to add value to yourself, either by learning a trade or a job or a vocation that you can, people will pay for, because that will be a long way to help anyone. Because as it is right now, I don't think everyone is enjoying the heat, and it's on the rise every day. So whatever you can do to add additional income, or if you don't even have an income at all that can provide any sort of income, no matter how small, it is worth starting.
You have mentioned usable points here today, Dr. Roland. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. We appreciate you. We hope that next time we reach out, you would be willing to join us on the show, sir.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Thank you very much. All right, sir. Thank you.
That was an eye-opening conversation there with Dr. Roland as to why things are as expensive as they are at the moment. Before we get to the economic fun fact segment of the show, let's see what Naira exchanges against dollar and also touch the stock exchange space. Now to the foreign exchange market. On the 13th of February 2024, in the Nigerian Autonomous Foreign Exchange Market, $1 exchanged for 1,503 naira. But on the 14th of February 2024, $1 exchanged for 1,499 naira, which is a 4 naira appreciation of our naira. But not just that. In the Bureau de Change market, on the 13th of February 2024, $1 exchanged for 1,565 naira. But on the 14th of February 2024, $1 exchanged for 1,532 naira. Now that's also an appreciation of our naira in a way. We hope for positive impact today and even more appreciation of our naira today at the end of business. Thank you for joining me today on The Numbers. It's time for our economic fun fact. Do you like seeing movies? I mean, Nollywood. Do you like seeing movies at all? Because today's economic fun fact is about the Nollywood industry, and I hope you will enjoy this. Let's go.
Tired of this generational curse.
Nollywood refers to the Nigerian film industry and is the second largest film industry in the world by the number of annual film productions. It produces a wide range of movies, including dramas, comedies, and thrillers, which are popular both domestically and internationally. It encompasses the production of films primarily in the form of direct-to-video releases, often featuring low budgets and quick turnaround times. Let's take a look at the Nollywood and its economic impact. If it's about size and output, Nollywood produces a staggering number of films each year, with estimates ranging from 1,500 to 2,500 movies annually. This prolific output makes it the second largest film industry globally, trailing only India's Bollywood. Nollywood contributes to Nigeria's economy through revenue generation, both domestically and internationally. The industry contributes significantly to Nigeria's GDP, with estimates ranging from 1.42% to 2.3%. This translates to billions of dollars annually, propelling economic growth. The industry generates income from film sales, rentals, licensing, merchandising. It also stimulates economic activity in related sectors.
Action film.
Nollywood is a major job creator, employing an estimated 1 million people directly and indirectly. The Nollywood industry provides employment opportunities for a wide range of professionals, including actors, directors, producers, cinematographers, editors, and technicians. Additionally, ancillary industries such as marketing, distributing, and retail benefit from the production and sale of Nollywood films. This makes it the second largest employer in Nigeria after agriculture. Nollywood films are popular globally, generating foreign exchange earnings through sales, streaming platforms, and international collaborations. This diversifies the economy and brings in valuable income. The industry generates tax revenue for the government through various channels, including production fees, cinema ticket sales, and individual income taxes of employees. Nollywood's success attracts investments from both domestic and international sources. This fuels industry growth and creates further economic opportunities. Nollywood films have gained popularity not only in Nigeria but also among African communities worldwide. They are distributed and screened in countries with significant African immigration populations, as well as in regions with an interest in African culture and entertainment. Nollywood plays a significant role in promoting Nigerian culture, traditions, and values, both within the country and abroad. Through its storytelling, Nollywood reflects the diversity and complexity of the Nigerian society, showcasing its languages, customs, and societal issues. Nollywood contributes to tourism by attracting visitors interested in experiencing Nigerian film culture firsthand. Film screenings, festivals, and studio tours offer opportunities for cultural exchange and engagement with international audiences. The film industry fosters the growth of supporting sectors like fashion, catering, equipment rentals, transportation, creating a ripple effect through the economy. On the cultural side, Nollywood produces more movies than Hollywood annually, telling diverse stories that resonate with local and global audiences. Nollywood films often address societal issues and challenges faced by Nigerians, sparking dialogue and advocating for positive change. The industry promotes and preserves indigenous Nigerian languages, countering the dominance of English and maintaining cultural heritage. Now to the challenges and opportunities. While Nollywood thrives, it faces challenges like piracy, inadequate funding, infrastructure limitations, and skills gap. Overcoming this hurdle requires government support, private sector partnership, and technological advancements. Nollywood's future looks bright with increased streaming penetration, international collaborations, and growing demand for African content. Continued economic impact and cultural influence are expected as the industry navigates these opportunities and challenges. Thank you for joining me today on Economic Funfact.
I'm so proud of our Nollywood industry. They are doing so well there and they can only do more from where they are at the moment. Thank you so much for joining me today on Market Square. Do well to follow us on all our social media platforms and also comment every time we make a post. My name remains Oluwa Pelumi Awe. See you on the next one.